Alright, brush presets. Now to start out with this big huge story of brush presets, let's go to a brush that is just round. Okay, as we look now, this is just this boring old brush, right? Well, let's go into brush presets. Now when I talk about brush presets, I'm going to kind of talk about different applications of brushes along with this. So just kind of know that, like there's concept art, there's just line art, there's just textures, and there's so many different applications of things in Photoshop. It all depends what you're using Photoshop for. As a graphic designer, you're using Photoshop just to produce pixels, and that's it. And you got to worry about resolution and things like this so it prints well. As a digital painter, I'm worried more about trying to get texture out and resolution out and how to make things look realistic. So the texture is my number one concern, mainly when it comes to digital painting. When it comes to photography, you're worried more about soft and hard edges. So these are all things you're going to learn. You got to know that Photoshop branches across many different spectrums of things, from everywhere from photo retouching to 3D modeling and texturing to graphic design. So brushes always play a hand in all of those things, however. Anywhere from selections to just practical applications of laying down a line. Here, let's study brush tip shape first. So right now, round. If I go like this, not round. Okay, very easy to understand. Also, one of the main questions students always ask is, how do I rotate the brush? So this is how you rotate the brush. Okay, now when concept art comes into play, this is a very nice technique for concept art. Okay, so random shapes, and then you get a shape down, and then you start adding detail to it. I love this brush. Now, here's a little thing under shape dynamics. So there's a lot of things that we can turn on and off here, and throughout the time here, you're going to understand all of them. Let's turn them all off. Make sure all are off here, and now let's just click pen pressure. Okay, lightly touch it, and then as soon as you press down on it, it rotates. Okay, this is not very practical. Let's go into a thing called initial direction. So if I go in this direction, it's thick. If I go in this direction, it's thick. But you can see you can make some really nice lines. And now if you start rotating or just kind of scrubbing across on your Wacom drawing tablet, you can see this acts just like a calligraphy brush. Okay, so if you ever need kind of a different line style or need to sign your name, this works really well. Okay, angle jitter on, and you can see that it becomes kind of a textured brush. If you choose direction, going in that direction, this direction, you can see that it almost it's like a rolling paint. If you ever paint a wall with a roller, this is exactly how it would function. I would say the number one thing as a student you should do if you're really serious about learning Photoshop is this. When you're not doing anything, you should go in here and check and uncheck things on a scratch pad and check out what every one of these things do. For all practicality, I don't want to cover each and every one of these because it would take a year or two. But I'm just going to focus on some of the major ones and let you discover some of the minor ones that actually work quite well. It's just studying all is just impossible right off the bat. So let's go into a hard edge brush and let's look at shape dynamics, and let's go to something like fade. Fade here, sorry. with fade, I can make my brush a little bit bigger. And you can see I can make these nice little thorn things. Okay? And if I make my brush bigger, it starts to lag a little bit. But you can see that the tip is just round. It's not sharp like the first one was. Well, here I can choose my fade. So I can have a 50% fade if I wanted to, or a 25% fade if I wanted to. So now I can make, this is great for making teeth, by the way. So, as I said, there's a lot of applications for these things. Now, under the minimum diameter, see if this is turned up just a little bit, I have this weird tail now. So always check your minimum diameter to check out to see if that's there. Also, if you look at your spacing, this also affects this shape. So now I have more of a blobby type of texture appearing on the outside. Also, this has a lot to do with the shape. So you got your size. The smaller it is, the more pointy it is. I love this feature. Okay, so great for making kind of an abstract thing. That's what I'm saying. Playing around in here is always happy accidents. Just waiting to happen. You just gotta be there. Now, scattering. Another thing I'm using all the time is scattering. So here I can scatter on all axes, both axes, pen pressure. Now let me turn down my shape here. So let's go smaller in size. I can turn my spacing up or down. Great for stipples. Okay, so if you know what stipple point is, this is a great way to do it. Okay, now if I adjust my size jitter, you're going to find out that now I can make a whole bunch of random dots. Another thing used all the time is the fact that we have transfer. Okay, transfer allows me to opacity jitter them. Okay, I base that of pen pressure, and now I can make a whole bunch of black and white dots. But if I build this up, it causes a lot of things like texture to appear. Okay, so also very handy, especially in graphic design when you need something just different in the background. Of course, turning your spacing down equals more dots. In one area. Be careful because, you know, as soon as you check this or click something, if it's a larger document with high resolution, it's going to take all day to do it. So a lot of these brushes function quite well under low resolution, but the minute that you have a new document that's like, oh, let's say US paper with 300 dots per inch, and try this very same trick, okay, so it takes a second to fill in. As I said, great for making backgrounds too. All right, color dynamics. Let's kind of look at that with everything on. So we're now branching across to different things. Color dynamics. Let's say I have a blue dot and a red dot. Okay. With background foreground jitter on, like let's say fade. And this one was supposed to be blue or purple. Let's do purple. You can see now it's jumping between those colors and the different saturation levels between them. Okay, because saturation jitter is on. Now they're always purely saturated. Now see how slow this is going. It's harder to learn in a document like this. When this one is so small, like a 1024 by 1024, it's easy to see what's going on. The other one takes a very long time. So when using brushes for the very first time, you should always make a new document that's like 1024 by 1024 pixels and just play around with it in there. Higher pixel range, you're not going to understand it as well. Okay, and 72 for the res for that document. Okay, so do I use this all the time? No. In fact, it is kind of useful when making kind of texture. So if you went in here and chose one of these, you can see that based upon 2 colors, I can get some kind of wacky results. So, and it is also nice for black and white. So if I have black on one, white on the other one, you can see now I have quite a bit of texture here. And if I pen pressure it, I get even more texture. Those who draw with a pencil know what I'm talking about with texture. Okay, it's a really fun thing to do when filling in large areas. Noise, nothing I use very often, but it does add a little bit more texture to the mix even. Okay, so there's noise off. Not much of a difference, right? Wet edges are concerned with just, you get this really kind of water paint look. So, again, I don't use that very often. Airbrush I do use a lot, and this is nice fading in and out of opacity. Smoothing I use all the time on lines. So let's say I need to make a really nice line. Well, if you choose this one and you choose your pen pressure, okay, there's something else on here. This happens all the time too. Let's say clear brush controls, and then I can study the brush again under a fresh preset. So here I can have pen pressure on with smoothing. You'll notice that your line quality is very nice. If I zoom in on this using Alt and wheel, you'll see the difference. Here's with smoothing on. Here's with smoothing off. So you can see it takes and blurs out based upon the direction of where you're going. Here it doesn't do that with smoothing. And protect texture is used for when you're brushing onto something that has texture already, it'll preserve that texture already there. So, not very practical right now, but we'll look at that later. Alright, so those are some of the attributes of brushes. I hope you explore this very immensely. You need to go in here every day at least and kind of play around if you're serious about any kind of Photoshop work whatsoever, whether it be photography, retouching photos, or drawing, or graphic design, or whatever. It's all basically has to do with pixels, and this is how you produce them. Enjoy. Let's go on to brush 3, which is how to make custom brushes based upon different things.